Hey, it's Jacob Wade here, back with another quick lunch money tutorial. Today, I want to show you 5 hidden tricks inside the budgeting feature in the Lunch Money app. Let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to pull up a sample budget here. And the first thing I want to show you is you can add notes to each individual category here. And they are separated by periods. So you can add notes for October, but then a separate note for September if you want to. So I'm just going to scroll down here. And first of all, you're going to see this home and auto category actually has a little note page symbol next to it. That's because I added a note. And if I hover over it, it says this includes rent and car payments. Great. And if I go over to this arrow, you can see that note was added, and I'll get out of the way here. Right here, it says notes for October 1st to October 31st. So for this budgeting period, this is this specific note. And you can update the note here. Make sure you hit save changes. And then again, you can hover over it and see there's an updated note right there. And then same thing for pets. This is for pet food and supplies, right? So you can have little specific notes for that month exactly and have custom notes from budgeting period to budgeting period. So again, if I go over to November, for example, maybe home and auto is going to be a little different note, same as last month, right? So this is going to be a whole separate note, and we're going to just be able to customize that from month to month. This is super helpful if you're just trying to have specific notes for that specific month. All right, the next little hidden tip here is using budgeting suggestions or budgeting presets to just budget based on your expected recurring amount for a specific budget category. So if you look into the recurring section here under finances, you can really put in and create some recurring transactions that are expected, that are upcoming. And so, for example, I've got rent and I've got Google Fi and I've got Geico, right? These 3 categories have these expected transactions on a monthly basis. And as you can see here, I put it under the category home and auto. So when I go over to my budget, I can actually go to this home and auto thing, and it shows up when I click into the budgeted box here. It'll actually give me the ability to scroll down and go set to the total expected recurring amount. Between those 3 line items, it's going to be about $10.45. That's what's from the recurring tab. So if I just click that, boom, I'm going to immediately budget for that total expected recurring amount. But what else is cool is that you can also set up a budget preset over in your settings so that it shows up there in that little grade number. Right now, there's a budget preset set for something else, but I'm going to go over here to the arrow and I'm going to go down to budget presets. Right now, I have it set to a fixed amount of $8.50, but if we wanted to just match what you've already put into that expected recurring amount, hit set to total expected recurring. Once I save changes, you're going to see it's going to switch over and say, hey, should we set this to $10.45? You just check the box, boom. Now your total expected recurring that you set in specific categories, you can just quickly go check, 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 boom, your budget is set. And one more quick note on recurring items. When you've set up those recurring items, you'll see a little tooltip show up here with this little icon, this little letter I. You hover over that, it's going to show you, hey, here is your expected recurring items for this period, right? We got $50 for the Google Fi charge, $145 for Geico auto insurance, and $8.50 for rent. And so it just gives you a breakdown of here's what you have specifically for this category. All right, tip number 3 is that you can actually clean up your budget view a little bit. And there is a setting under the budget settings that says hide categories with no activity and no budgeted amount. So if you haven't set a budgeted amount and then there's no activity for that specific category, you could just hide it so you could only see the stuff that you've budgeted for and that actually had spending in it. So I'm going to turn this on and you'll see that a couple of categories go away. It makes it a little bit smaller here. And again, this one didn't go away. Even though we hadn't set the budget yet, it still has some activity of $89.59. So that still shows up. Now, if I go back into budget settings and we turn this off, you're going to see a couple more categories now appear, right? The pets, the restaurants budget, the credit card payoff. There's no activity in these 2 specifically, and there's no budget set, so they show back up. But if you're going through your budget and maybe you're reviewing at the end of the month, or you just like, I just want to see the categories I've actually budgeted for and that actually have spending in them, you can turn that toggle on to clean it up. And tip number 4 is a quick little shortcut way to zero out a budgeted line item based on what's already been spent. So again, we have budget suggestions where you click into a box and you can go in and select one of these cool budget suggestions. But did you know if you just click on this number in activity, it'll actually set the budget to match that amount and zero out that line item. So you can just go through and click $89.59, boom, it automatically set the budget, right? And we can go down the line and click anything that doesn't match. Oop, I want to set that one, and maybe we want to set this one, right? You can just click through. So if you're just trying to go, okay, it's the end of the month, I just want to zero out so I see what's left over, you can click on that activity button, just hover over it, click it, and it'll automatically set your budget for you. Pretty handy. And tip number 5, also has to do with that activity number. But what's really cool is if you see a dotted line here, it means you've got some spending activity, right? Some transactions have gone through. But if you hover over this number, you can actually see historical spending in this specific category as well. So what's really cool is you could say, okay, I spent 11.58 this month, but in September I spent about 9.95. I spent a little bit less back in August. It was only 8.50. So maybe just rent went through, but the other two bills didn't go through. And you're like, I'm not really sure what happened. Well, if you go up to this historical spending, we've got this nice little magnifying glass. You can actually see the transactions from those historical spending amounts. So if I'm like, okay, what happened in September? I just click the button. Oh, okay, yeah, it was just Geico and rent. We hadn't had the Google Fi set up. Maybe you just moved into a new place, right? Just very, very quickly, you could access the information that helps you answer some questions where you're like, what happened in the past? So super handy to be able to hover over the activity, see the historical spending, and actually click down into the transactions themselves and see what's going on. So those are 5 handy tips you can use when budgeting to make things simpler and easier in the Lunch Money app.